pretty straightforward and pretty easy. Yesterday, if you remember, we used tables and graphs to find limits. Today, we're going to use an algebraic technique to find limits. Okay? So, the first thing we're going to do in order to do this is I'm just going to start with an example. Okay? So, the limit as x approaches 2 of 3. Now when I think about 3, if I were to graph that, it's going to be a horizontal line. Right? Because if you graph 3 and you put y1 equals 3 on your calculator, you're going to get a horizontal line. The nifty thing about horizontal lines is that they are called constant functions. And as constant functions, they just equal themselves. Okay? Pretty straightforward. So now let's look at another one. Okay, the limit as x approaches 4 of x. So once again, from yesterday, you could graph that on your calculator. It would be y equals x. It's going to be a diagonal line. The limit here is 4. Where do you think I got that? Yep, as x approaches 4. So basically, I took 4 and I plugged it in there for x. So, not too bad.
Canceling things we did last year.
We'll get to those. Yes, that will be Monday. Okay, the limit as x approaches 3 of x squared. What? Well, you do. I was just saying what? I was asking because I didn't quite hear you. What was it? 9. So, all we're doing once again is we're taking 3, plugging it in for x. Okay, fairly straightforward. That's pretty much what a lot of today is going to be. It's just going to be direct substitution. So let's go ahead and look at another one. The limit as x approaches 2 of 4x squared plus 3. What do you think on that one? What? 19, good. How you got 19 is we're just plugging 2 in again for x. So you end up getting 4 times 4, which is 16, and add 3.
Why did that first time it said 9 of 3 is x approaching 2 and it's 3?
Because there was no x to plug it in. Okay, so the limit as x approaches 1, okay, of x squared plus x plus 2 over x plus 1. Okay, if you didn't catch that, I'm just going to plug 1 in for each of the x's. So on the top I get 4, bottom I get 2, my limit is 2. Now once again, remember we could use a table, we could use a graph, or we can just use direct substitution, which is probably what I would do. So, any questions on that? Alrighty. Zero. Good. It's just basically whatever the value tangent of 0 is, and we know that is 0. So it goes for trig functions as well. All you're doing is directly substituting in the values. Okay. Let's look at this one. Now, one of the things we need to review that when it's written this way, sine squared x, all that means is sine of x quantity squared. Okay? So whenever you see that squared sign, It just means sine of x quantity squared. So what we need to do is plug the 0 in here. And so I get sine of 0, which in fact is 0. And then I square 0, and I get 0 as my answer. Okay, so that's one of the things you need to kind of recall. I think we looked at that briefly last year, but when it's sine squared, cosine squared, anything like that, it means the quantity squared. Okay. Last thing I need you to do is I need you to go ahead and go to page 67, the one I just gave you. And I need you to go ahead and look at, I need you to look at number 1. Okay, number 1 says use a graphing utility to graph and visually estimate. I don't want you to do that. I just want you to use direct substitution. So on number 1, what are you going to do for part A? Yep, all you're going to do when it gives you this, all that means, that just basically means the limit as x approaches 5 of whatever the h of x function is, which is this one right here. So all you're going to do is plug in 5. Okay. So on 1, 2, 3, and 4, I just want you to find those using direct substitution. On 5 through 22, direct substitution again. Yes, you're going to have some roots, that's fine. On number 23, direct substitution again. I want you to cross off letter C on each of those. 23 through 26. 27 through 36 is trig functions. 37, let's look at 37 real quick. Okay, 37 says the limit as x approaches c of f of x equals 2. The limit as x approaches c of g of x equals 3. And then it's got some individual parts. So let's start with A. A says the limit as x approaches c of 5 g of x. So if you notice, it says the limit of g of x is 3. Right? So what do you think your answer is going to be on this one? Somebody just take a stab in the dark. $15. How'd you get 15? You plug in g of x, which is 3, and you're going to take that times 5. So your answer there is 15. What about letter B? What's letter B going to be?
5.
5, because you're adding the 2 plus the 3. So you see what you're going to be doing? I mean, it's not overly difficult.
C is 6.
Okay, what's this time? All right, so what I need you to do is I need you to do 1 through 40.
Oh my!
1 through 40.
Thank you, Susan.